Cześć, jesteśmy przed amerykańską kawiarnią i czytelnią na Solid w Krakowie. Będziemy dzisiaj rozmawiać z Benem Caplanem. My, czyli shoegaze.pl. Zapraszamy.
Ben przyjechał.
Hey Ben, how are you doing? Hey, you think like Polish car?
Oh yeah? It's cute.
Okay, let's go inside. Ben, the first question is really simple. Like, how did it all start with you being a musician? Do you have a musical background, like a musical family? Did you go to musical school or you're self-taught?
Yeah, well, I didn't have a musical family at all. In fact, my family, when I was young, were not particularly encouraging of me playing music. I had some piano lessons when I was a kid, but I never really liked it. It wasn't really so much about learning how to play music as it was about learning how to read music, and I didn't have a lot of patience for it. And so I quit that, and then I asked to start some other lessons, but the answer was always no. So, you know, I eventually got my first guitar when I was 13, and then after that I didn't really put it down, and I mostly taught myself how to play, and then slowly, you know, one step at a time, very slowly, I got a little bit better and a little bit better, and then when I was 16 I started writing some songs, and from there it just sort of gradually became a larger and larger focus in my life.
So when you started performing, did you start performing as you, Ben Caplan, or did you play in any bands before? How was it?
Well, my beginning of performing was actually before I started playing music, really. I started in the theater, and I started singing and dancing and acting and all this stuff. But then when I first performed on stage with a guitar, it was as Ben Caplan. And I had some other bands as well. I was in a rock and roll band where I played electric guitar.
Oh, cool. And does this band exist?
No, it's
Okay.
a long time gone. Yeah.
And how did your family react when you told them you wanted to be, you know, a professional musician, be on tour most of the time? And did they like it?
I didn't really tell them because I knew what the answer was going to be. Yeah, I graduated from university, and all the while that I was studying in university, I was studying history and philosophy, and music was becoming a bigger and bigger part of how I was spending my time and what I was thinking about, which meant that the last little bit of university was very, very difficult because all I was doing was thinking about music and booking gigs and writing songs.
Yeah, I know how it is.
Yeah, it's hard. And then after I graduated from university, I didn't get a job or anything. I just sort of focused on figuring out how the music industry works, and studying. I just sort of transferred that academic energy from history and philosophy into really understanding the nuances and the different dynamics that are at play within the business side of music, and trying to develop a very strong understanding of that. And then I ran out of money, and I got a job working at a call center, and you know, started spending all my time thinking about music, and then eventually I went on my first cross-Canada tour, which was a month long, and then slowly over the course of that year, which was 2011, I started booking more and more tours. The first tour was a month long, and the next one was maybe 3 weeks, and another 3-week tour after that. And before the year was done, I had already spent 6 months of 2011 on tour. And so there was not really any point of like, now I'm going to stop my regular life and become a musician. It just sort of transitioned, and then one day I just quit my job, and I haven't had one since.
Okay, I see. But did you, before you started doing tours, did you have any, like, maybe plan B for life, or to be someone else, or you just wanted to be a musician no matter what, and only this?
You know, I did have backup plans. I mean, but I wasn't really thinking about them seriously at this point. I mean, that's why I finished my degree. I got my bachelor's to have sort of a backup just in case. And I'm glad that I did. I mean, I'm not really using that knowledge in a direct way, but I think what I studied in university was not a specific career, but it was the art of clear thinking. and I think that serves me. But in terms of having a clear idea of you know, what's plan B, I don't know. I mean, I was working in a call center before I took off, so.
Anyway, congratulations on your choice, because it would be such a pity if you did not become a musician. Let's talk about your you and your relationship with Krakow, because you came back to Krakow. You first came to Krakow for the Green Zoo Festival in June, and it was, I think, really successful for you.
Yeah.
And how did you feel when you came back, when you played the show? Did you feel like people knew your songs, they were singing your lyrics with you? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, people did know my songs and they were singing the lyrics. It was a lovely experience. It's always a big pleasure when I you know, arrive somewhere that's so far from my home and people have an intimate relationship with my songs. So I really like Krakow. I think it's a really cool city, and it has worked out for the second time in a row that I have some time off and I'm going to be able to spend it here. I love this city.
Can you compare Krakow to any other city, or like is Krakow like really exceptional for you, or it's like something else? Like, how is it? Because you go to all these places, and is Krakow any unique, or?
I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to think just now of any city I can compare Krakow to, and I really can't think of anything. The combination of you know, the compact size and the interesting different locations, so many interesting cafes and interesting people. Yeah.
And what do you think about Warsaw?
I've learned there's a bit of a feud between Krakow and Warsaw. You know what? I think Warsaw is an interesting place. It's certainly happening. There's a lot going on there. But I spent 3 days there, and I think for me that was enough. In Krakow, I'm happy to spend 2 weeks. You know.
Okay, but you already have some fan base in Warsaw as well, right?
Yeah. My show in Warsaw was maybe about the same size as the last show in Krakow. It was a bit of a bigger venue, so the show in Krakow had more of a sensation of being jam-packed or sold out, and Warsaw wasn't quite that intensity, but the audience was perhaps a similar size and also very, very enthusiastic.
Have you played anywhere else in Poland apart from Krakow and Warsaw? No.
No, I was hoping to try to make it to Łódź and Wrocław, but didn't work out for this time.
I think Wrocław would like your music, and I suggest you to go to Wrocław one day as well.
Okay, cool.
After the Green Zoo Festival, there was an article in Polish Newsweek about you in the magazine Newsweek. Did you read it?
No, I never saw it.
You never saw it?
No.
Yeah, because it was really like, it was 4 pages or something. It was really nice that somebody wrote that long article about not a mainstream musician in a mainstream magazine, right? So it was really nice, and they, you know what, they called you the last hope for Polish hipsters. What do you think about this? Do you like it?
Sure. I mean, it's this whole hipster thing has. It's interesting to me. I mean, so much of what people associate with hipsters is like always trying to be on the leading edge and what's the coolest of cool. And right now, hipsters are on to I guess cardigans, sweaters, and beards. But that's just how I dress, and it's sort of, for me, it's like, this is how I dress because it's how I'm comfortable, and I like to wear old clothes because I don't like to buy new clothes, and I have a beard because I'm lazy, and all of a sudden all these hipsters are like, I walked into this clothing store and it looked like a used clothing store that I would be searching for all my life. I'm like always trying to find clothing stores that have this kind of stuff, but it was all brand new, and it was all like $300, and it was like, why would anyone wear this? And I realized that there's people who are out there who are like spending all this money and all of this energy to have a look that's like, just, for me, it's just like the lazy look.
When we are talking about the image on stage, like, because when people talk about you, they of course, one of the first things they say, they are talking about your beard and about the way you look. And do you think about this? Do you think about your image, or you just it's just natural? It's just, well, you said it was natural, but do you think it's important how a musician looks on stage? Like, at least for you, like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important. I think that there's different aspects of the show. There's how the show sounds, there's how the performance interacts with the audience, and there's the visual aspect. And I think that all three are equally important. Perhaps not equally, maybe the music's most important, but I mean, most of all, I just want to look like Pan Clarks when I grow up. So
Okay.
that was a joke.
Maybe let's talk about touring. How many days do you think a year you are on tour?
Between 250 and 300.
Okay, that's pretty lots. And like right now, do you think you want to continue touring so hard like your whole life, or like how?
Nope.
What
Absolutely not.
No?
No, I have no interest in doing this for much longer. It's hard, you know. It's really hard to always be away from home, to always be living out of a suitcase, to never. I mean, you know, when I'm in Krakow, I'm here for 2 weeks, so I get to actually get to know the place and get to know the people and get to know what's interesting about this place. You know, so many places where I go, I see the venue, the backstage, and the hotel.
Yeah.
And then
the next morning you have to wake up,
go to the next city. Yeah.
city.
And so it's, people tell me sometimes, they're like, how jealous they are how I get to go see the world and I'm always experiencing new places. And the truth is that I'm maybe 1 in 5 cities, 1 in 10 cities, and I get the chance to actually interact and see something beautiful and have a beautiful experience other than the show. I mean, the shows and different audiences, I mean, it's a wonderful experience to get to interact with different people, and that's wonderful, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I think people have a very skewed idea of what it's actually like. And I can drive by something beautiful in the car and I take a picture and put it on Instagram, and people have this idea of like, I got to go experience that site, and it's like, no, it's just passing by, always fast.
And what are you doing when you come home?
Writing, practicing. That's the biggest thing that I miss when I'm on the road, is I don't get to practice. And so, I practice on stage.
Yeah.
So, but are there any periods when you're not on tour, when you're home or anywhere else, when you don't, for example, practice, don't write music, don't play guitar for like 2 weeks or something like this?
You watch television or something like this?
No, I don't own a television, and I'm not interested in television. Yeah, there are days when I don't play any music. There are days when I don't listen to any music. Usually the first couple days after a tour, like when I first arrived in Krakow, I slept for a couple days, and then I sat down at the piano and I practiced for 5 or 6 hours. I mean, it's for me, when I'm not touring, it's not like I'm on vacation. It's now I have to make up in 2 weeks all of the work that I feel like I should have been doing for the last 6 months. Because I mean, for me, if I'm gonna continue to keep music interesting for myself and continue to be able to push boundaries and make art that I'm excited about, then there's a lot more practice I need to be doing, and a lot more writing I need to be focused on. It's really a full-time job for me, and touring is getting it out there. But if I have any hope in coming up with a new album that I'm excited about, or continuing a long-term career, it means that when I'm not on the road, I have to be really focused on practice and writing.
So far you recorded this album in the time of the Great Remembering with the Casual Smokers. Are you planning on recording a new album with the same musicians, with different musicians? Do you have new material for the album so far?
Yeah, I've got about 5 or 6 songs that are going to go on the next album, and I've got 7 or 8 half-finished songs that I'm working on. It's one of the things that I'm focused on while I'm here in Krakow, is trying to finish some of those songs and write some new ones. Whether or not it's going to be all the same musicians, I'm not sure. I think the instrumentation will probably be similar. The musicians that I play with on the road are always changing, and so whether it's going to be the same musicians I was in the studio with before, or whether some of the different ones that I've been touring with, or whether it's going to be some other musicians altogether, I don't know. And a big part of it is probably going to come down to location and convenience. Who's available when I'm going into the studio.
What do you talking about playing with other musicians because you play a lot of solo shows, right? Uh, how does it differ for you? What do you prefer? Do you well perhaps there are advantages of one and the other, but how
Yeah.
does it make a difference for you?
I prefer playing with a band.
Yeah.
I really prefer to play with a band. It's the biggest problem is that I always want to play with the best musicians, and so the best musicians are the ones who are doing it full time and practicing as much as they can and gigging as much as they can. So it means that if they're not playing with me, they're on tour with someone else, or they're playing with someone else, or they're working on their own material, and so there has to be a monetary incentive, which is a nice way of saying they got to get paid, which means that it can be quite expensive to tour with a band. And I often, when I'm touring with a band, I won't break even, and so I'll tour solo to pay for touring with a band.
Okay. Do you think you will come to Poland one day with the band?
I hope so.
Or maybe you can find some Polish musicians who would play with you.
Perhaps, yeah. That's something I'm thinking about too. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it depends on my last gig in Krakow was sold out, and so it means that hopefully I can make a little bit more my next time here, which means that I can afford to bring a band or to hire a band or whatever it is. So I mean, it's always a pity when money and art have to collide. But at the end of the day, that's often what it comes down to in terms of whether it's a solo show or a band show. It's just whether or not it's affordable.
Ben, you are really known for great contact with the audience on stage, like, and people always interact with you. And well, how do you do it? Like, did you learn it, or it was just a natural thing for you at the very beginning?
I think it was natural to a certain degree. I mean, I think I've always sort of been at ease in front of an audience. I've always been relaxed on stage, and I think that's a part of it. I think that helps, and I think it's different strategies and things that I've learned just by doing it over and over again. You learn what works and what doesn't work, and I think for me, when we're children, we all play. It's children play, and as we grow up, we play less and less. I mean, yeah, but we have less opportunities to play. It's less socially, okay to be just playing. And so I think the biggest part of what I do is I just say, let's play together. It's okay. Like, this is an atmosphere in which we can all
You're
just
trying to be a child.
have fun. Yeah, I mean, not even to be a child, but to be an adult at play. And I think that the biggest part of what I do is I give permission to people to just be silly and play and have fun. And I think that all you need to do is give permission. And if you can compellingly just give permission, then people will do it. I think it's about establishing the authority to be able to give permission, and then permission is granted, and then everyone plays.
There's one thing that's interesting for me. I mean, the process of creating music. For you, how do you work on new songs? Do you first have lyrics? Do you first have music, or it's?
It's always a little bit different from song to song. Sometimes there's a strong lyrical idea that drives me searching for that first chord, and then the next first chord leads to another and another. Sometimes there's chords that are driving the process, and I know what the progression is going to be more or less, and I'm trying to find the words that will fit those chords, and the melody slips its way in. But I think most frequently for me, the melody comes first, and then based on that melody, everything else will come together. But when I write, it's more often than not, I'm sitting at a piano or with a guitar, and I just have nothing, and it's just this painful process of searching, trying different things, and I'll just try one line with one chord, and maybe the words will begin to come first, or maybe the chords will begin to come first, or maybe a melody will appear to me. But usually it involves having both of those things present to me at the same time, and just blindly searching for something that sticks, throwing 1,000 things against the wall until finally something, the wall cracks and I can start to dig my way in.
Okay. Do you write more like lyrics about personal life, personal feelings, or because I know you also write more political lyrics sometimes?
Sometimes.
what do you, if you had to say like in 5 words what your songs are about, like what would you say? Like it doesn't have to be 5 words, you know.
I would say each one is quite different.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I think I don't have any kind of methodology about what I want to write about. Sometimes I start with something that's personal and it turns into something that's not personal. Sometimes I start with a random idea that's not about me, and I finish the song and I realize that it's entirely about me. So yeah, I think it's always different. I don't really have a set idea of which direction I'm trying to go in. And I think, you know, if you look at the album In the Time of the Great Remembering, you know, I think the songs vary widely, and I think that's because of that. I don't have an idea that I'm going to write a blues song or a rock song or a folk song or a personal political or I just try to let the song be the song. I think in a certain kind of way, I think of songwriting like sculpting, and a lot of sculptors talk about, you know, they see a piece of wood or a piece of stone, and their job isn't to create something, but it's to allow the piece of stone to reveal the sculpture that's hiding inside of it. And it's sort of a passive process. And I try to take a similar approach to songwriting. There's 12 notes, you know, and there's, you know, the 3 or 4 octaves that I can sing in, and all the other octaves that I can, you know, arrange around, and just trying to let the song show itself to me.
Okay. And when you work with your bands, for example, the musicians you recorded the album with, like, do you have the exact ideas for each instrument's parts, or do you write the parts for the other instruments, or you jam together and they write their parts? Like, how does it work?
It's a bit of both. I usually have quite a strong idea of where I'm trying to go by the time I bring it to a band, but again, I try to be a little bit passive. So sometimes there'll be a melody in a particular spot that I know I need to hear, and I need to hear it in a particular way. But then other times there's room for interpretation and unraveling and you know, things that I wouldn't have expected. And a lot of times when I'm working with a musician who's bringing something quite strong to the table, it'll be like, yes, 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 no,
Or no?
no, and then like, and both, you know, and sort of like, I want to go in a particular direction, and somebody's bringing something to the table, but then suddenly it sort of twists in a direction where I didn't know that I wanted it to go where that person was taking it, and I love it, but I don't want it to go so far in that direction, because I know maybe in that moment I don't know what I want it to sound like, but I know what I don't want it to sound like. And so it's about balancing those two things. And for me, I try to be very sensitive to allowing, you know, other artists to do things that I would not be able to do, and I wouldn't be able to even conceive. But then balancing that with my vision of where I want to take the song.
Okay. Then I hope you'll be coming to Krakow often, because we like to come to your shows, and you are more and more fans in Krakow. And in this article in Newsweek, like, it was really optimistic. The author of the article at the end, he was saying like, watch out for Ben Caplan, he will be really famous one day. Like,
Great.
I hope it will work for you. And like, just one more question, like, what would you advise for like a young musician who wants to start touring? Do you have any tips for young musicians who would like to start touring the world like you are doing?
Yeah, I would say be like the water, not like the stone. And what that means, you know, it's an old Taoist philosophy. Water flows around all of the different obstacles, and a stone seems like it's hard and durable, but the soft water over time will slowly destroy the rock. If you look at a waterfall and things like that, the rock will slowly be worn away by the water. And I think that if you make yourself like a rock, like with a firm path and a strong idea, then you're going to get broken apart. But if you're flexible like the water, then you're able to sort of, as the path changes, you're able to navigate the different path. My idea of where I wanted to go when I first started, and what my career was going to look like, and what it looks like now, are very, very different. And I think the only reason I've been able to come as far as I have is because of my flexibility. I mean, I never wanted to be touring the world as a solo artist, but I've learned that I need to work on my solo show and be able to do that, so as that I can be able to build an audience that I can then come back and show to my band.
So flexibility.
I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, just knowing how to always be watching what's going on and learn how to adapt.
So who's your favorite philosopher? Talk about water and...
Good question. I mean, well, that particular philosophy comes from the Tao, written by Lao Tzu. So I mean, I'm constantly inspired by that text. Who's my favorite philosopher? I'm reading a lot of Nietzsche right now. I'm fascinated by the idea of overcoming humanity. Who's my favorite? I don't know. I read too much. It'd be hard to say. Right now, I'm reading a lot of a guy named John Ralston Saul, who's a Canadian philosopher, I suppose, and I think he ranks up there in terms of thinking about thinking. Yeah.
There's one more question that came into my mind. Did you have a chance to listen to some Polish music, or maybe there's something you went to a show here in Krakow that was interesting for you? Maybe you heard some bands. Was there anything interesting for you that you liked?
You know what? I've been listening to a lot of music on CDs the last little while, but the truth is I know a lot of it's from all parts of Eastern Europe, and I'm not sure what's Romanian, Hungarian, Polish. So I don't really know.
That's why a lot of Polish bands they sing in English, which I don't like so much, because I like Polish bands singing in Polish.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of contemporary Polish music, but something to remedy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the interview, Ben.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Igor.
Thanks.
Thank you. So we've got some postcards from shoegaze.pl.
Oh, cool.
So can you write something for the fans?
Sure.
Give me some
And we'll do some contests. So that
what should I write?
whatever you want.
Okay, you can pay something. What do you want?
Don't worry, we're not going to sell these.
On
On
eBay.
Do you have any more of these? I'd love to send a postcard to my girlfriend. Maybe you can keep
Okay.
Yeah. We have some more now.
We have two.
That's great. Is it a sticker too?
No.
No, sorry.
How many stickers is a sticker? It's thick.